Have you ever felt like there was something more to your existence than what meets the eye? That inexplicable sensation that you are here for a reason that transcends the mundane routines of daily life. I know that feeling intimately. For years, I wandered through life believing that if I just worked harder, if I just achieved more success, if I just accumulated more knowledge or spiritual practices, that somehow the answer would reveal itself. I rose before dawn to meditate. I studied ancient texts. Until my eyes burned, I tried every manifestation technique, every law of attraction principle, every self-help method that promised to unlock the secrets of the universe. And yet something profound remained hidden just beyond my grasp. Like a dream you almost remember upon waking, but it dissolves the moment you try to grasp it. Perhaps you are in that space right now, sensing that there is a deeper truth about who you are and why you are here, but unable to fully access it. Exhausted from the spiritual, tired of feeling like you are on the outside looking in while others seem to have discovered their purpose with ease. What if I told you that the reason you feel this way is not because you are broken or behind or doing something wrong? What if the very restlessness you feel, the very dissatisfaction with ordinary existence, is itself the sign that you were chosen before you were born for something extraordinary? This is not motivational rhetoric. This is not another feel-good message to boost your confidence temporarily. This is the ancient truth that Manlypalmerhall and the mystery schools have preserved for centuries. A truth so profound that it was hidden in plain sight, encoded in symbols, myths, and esoteric teachings, because the unprepared mind would either dismiss it as fantasy or misuse it for ego gratification. In the next moments, I am going to share with you the one fundamental truth about your existence that changes everything, not another technique to add to your already overwhelming spiritual practice, not another belief system to adopt, not another guru to follow, but rather a remembering of what your soul already knows, but your conditioned mind has forgotten. This is about recognizing the calling that has been whispering to you since before you took your first breath in this physical form. The ancient mystery schools understood something that modern spirituality has largely forgotten. They knew that not everyone who walks this earth carries the same mission, the same inner blueprint. Some souls incarnate to live out the basic lessons of physical existence, to experience the full spectrum of human emotion, to work through karmic patterns established in previous lifetimes. These souls are no less valuable, no less loved by the infinite intelligence that animates all things. But their path is one of gradual evolution, through repeated cycles of birth, death, and rebirth, moving slowly up the spiral of consciousness. But there exists another category of souls who chose to incarnate at this specific time in human history, not primarily for their own evolution, but as agents of transformation for the collective consciousness itself. These are the souls that Manlypalmerhall referred to as the called, the chosen, the bearers of the ancient flame. And if you are hearing these words right now, if something deep within you is stirring with recognition, then it is highly likely that you are one of these souls. The first sign that you were chosen before birth is the profound sense of not belonging that has haunted you for as long as you can remember. This is not the normal insecurity that many people feel in social situations. This is something deeper, more existential. As a child, you likely looked around at the world and felt like you were dropped into the wrong reality. You watched others seemingly content with surface-level conversations, with accumulating possessions, with following the prescribed path of school, career, marriage, retirement, death, and something in you recoiled not from judgment but from a deep inner knowing that there was something more, something vast and mysterious that others either could not see or chose to ignore. You were the child who asked the questions that made adults uncomfortable. Who are we really? Where did we come from before we were born? What happens to consciousness after death? Why do we exist at all? While other children played games that mimicked adult society, building imaginary corporations and families, you were drawn to the stars, to nature, to silence, wondering about the invisible forces that animate all life. This sense of alienation likely intensified as you grew older. You tried to fit in. You learned to wear the masks that society demands. You became skilled at pretending to care about things that felt hollow and meaningless deep down. But no matter how well you performed the role, the costume never quite fit. There was always a part of you standing outside observing, knowing that this game of normal life was just that, a game. And here is what the esoteric traditions understood that modern psychology misses entirely. That sense of not belonging is not a problem to be fixed. It is not a wound to be healed. It is not evidence of social anxiety or childhood trauma requiring endless therapy. It is the first sign that your soul remembers something that most have forgotten. You remember that you came from somewhere else, that you volunteered for this mission, that before you were born, you stood in the halls of higher consciousness and you agreed to incarnate into the density of physical matter, despite knowing how difficult it would be, despite knowing that you would forget who you truly are, despite knowing that you would spend years, maybe decades, feeling lost and confused, searching for something you could not name. This is what Manlypalmerhall meant when he spoke of the divine discontent, the sacred restlessness that drives certain souls to seek truth no matter the cost. This discontent is not your enemy. It is the compass that your higher self installed before you came here to ensure that no matter how lost you became in the illusion of material existence, eventually you would begin to search for the way home. And that search always begins with the recognition that something is fundamentally different about you. The second sign that you carry the mark of the chosen is your relationship with suffering. You have likely experienced more pain, more challenges, more dark nights of the soul than seems fair or reasonable. When you look at others who seem to glide through life with minimal turbulence while you have been thrown into the fire again and again, you might have wondered what cosmic crime you committed to deserve such a difficult path. But here is the profound truth that the mystery schools taught. The souls who were chosen to be way showers, light bearers, agents of transformation must be forged in the crucible of intense experience. The spiritual gold that you carry can only be refined through fire. Your suffering was never punishment. It was preparation. Every betrayal you endured taught you discernment. Every loss you faced taught you non-attachment. Every failure taught you humility. Every moment of darkness taught you to find the light within yourself, rather than depending on external sources. The comfortable life that part of you envies when you see others living it would have kept you asleep. A soul with your mission cannot afford to slumber peacefully in the dream of material existence. You needed to be shaken awake. And so the universe in its infinite intelligence orchestrated experiences that would break you open, crack the shell of ego and false identity, and force you to discover the indestructible essence of who you truly are. This is why the great mystics and spiritual teachers throughout history almost universally speak of their dark night of the soul, that period of utter dissolution, where everything they thought they knew about themselves in reality crumbled into dust. It is not because suffering is inherently noble or because there is virtue in pain itself. It is because the false self, the constructed identity that society helps you build from birth, must be dismantled before the true self can emerge, and that dismantling is rarely gentle. Manlypalmerhall wrote extensively about the trials of initiation in the ancient mystery schools, how candidates for higher knowledge had to pass through ordeals that tested every aspect of their being, physical ordeals that tested courage, mental ordeals that tested clarity, emotional ordeals that tested stability, spiritual ordeals that tested faith. These were not arbitrary hazing rituals. They were carefully designed to ensure that only those who had developed the necessary strength, wisdom, and purity of intention would gain access to knowledge that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. You are living through your own initiation right now in this very moment. Every challenge you face is testing whether you will respond with wisdom or reactivity with love or fear with trust or control. And here is the beautiful, terrible truth. Every time you choose the higher response, every time you meet difficulty with grace, every time you alchemize pain into wisdom, you are passing another level of initiation. You are proving to the higher intelligences that oversee human evolution that you are ready for more responsibility, more knowledge, more power, in service of the collective awakening. Your suffering was never random. It was the curriculum, designed specifically for your soul to develop the exact qualities needed to fulfill your mission. Here, the third unmistakable sign of being chosen is the presence of what esoteric traditions call the inner teacher or higher self, speaking to you with increasing clarity and urgency. This manifests in different ways for different people. For some, it is a literal inner voice offering guidance in moments of decision. For others, it is an overwhelming intuition, a knowing that arrives fully formed without logical explanation. For others, still, it is synchronicities that become so frequent and precise that dismissing them as coincidence becomes intellectually dishonest. You know this experience I am describing. You have had those moments where you thought of someone and they called seconds later, where you had a dream that played out in waking life days afterward, where you felt compelled to take a different route home and later discovered you avoided an accident, where you opened a book to the exact page that contained the answer you needed, where the universe seemed to be speaking directly to you through signs and symbols. The rational materialist mind tries to explain these away, tries to fit them into the box of chance and coincidence, but you know better. Something in you recognizes that there is an intelligence at work, an intelligence that knows you intimately, that has been guiding you all along even when you felt most lost. What the mystery schools taught and what modern spirituality often misses is that this higher intelligence is not separate from you. It is not God speaking down to you from heaven. It is not angels or spirit guides external to your being. It is the part of you that never left the source, the part that remained in unity, consciousness even as a fragment of your awareness descended into the illusion of separation to have this human experience. Before you were born, you, the greater you, the higher self that exists beyond time and space, made agreements. You chose your parents not randomly but strategically for the lessons they would teach and the challenges they would provide. You chose your life circumstances, the era you would incarnate into, the specific configuration of obstacles and opportunities that would serve your evolution and your mission, and you installed within yourself multiple wake-up calls, spiritual alarm clocks set to go off at specific moments in your life journey to remind you of who you really are and why you came. Every spiritual book that found its way into your hands at the perfect moment, every teacher who appeared just when you needed them, every crisis that forced you to go within and discover resources you did not know you had. These were not accidents. These were the wake-up calls your higher self installed before you incarnated. The feeling of being called to something greater, the restless sense that you are meant for more than you are currently living, the dreams and visions that show you glimpses of your potential. These are not fantasies or ego delusions. These are transmissions from the part of you that can see the full blueprint, the complete picture of what you came here to accomplish. Now we arrive at the paradox that confounds so many seekers, and this is where the teaching becomes truly alchemical. You were indeed chosen before birth. You do carry a unique mission. You are meant for something significant in the grand unfolding of human consciousness. But in here is where most spiritual teachings go astray. None of this makes you special in the way the ego wants to be special. It does not elevate you above others. It does not give you permission to judge those who seem asleep. It does not mean you are more loved by the universe or more deserving of good things. It actually means the opposite. It means you carry more responsibility, more weight, more challenge, because with great spiritual awareness comes great accountability. The person who knows the truth and fails to live it is in a more difficult position than the person who never knew the truth at all. This is what the mystery schools meant by the concept of noblesse oblige, the obligation of the nobility. Not nobility of blood or wealth, but nobility of consciousness. Those who have been given the gift of awakening, those who have received the transmission of higher knowledge carry the responsibility to embody it, to demonstrate it through their lives, to become living examples of what humans can be when they align with their divine nature. The chosen ones are not chosen for reward. They are chosen for service. They are chosen to go first, to walk the path through the wilderness, so others can follow, to hold the light steady when darkness seems overwhelming, to remember the truth when everyone around them has forgotten, to anchor higher frequencies of consciousness into the density of material reality through the simple act of their presence. This is why you have felt the pressure you have felt, the reason you cannot just coast through life pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain like you see others doing, the reason you feel guilty when you waste time on trivial pursuits, the reason mediocrity feels like death to your soul. Your higher self knows what you signed up for, and it will not let you rest in comfort and complacency. It will keep disrupting your peace, keep creating divine discontent, keep pushing you toward your edge until you finally surrender to the calling and step into your role. Let me pause here for a moment because I sense something important happening as you hear these words. Perhaps you are feeling that tightening in your chest, that emotion that rises when a deep truth touches something within you. You have been living in this cycle of knowing you are meant for more, yet feeling stuck in patterns that keep you small. Have you not? How many times have you asked yourself in the quiet moments, why do I feel this calling so strongly, yet struggle to fully step into it? You are not alone in this tension. In fact, this is the exact place where many give up, thinking perhaps they misread the signs, perhaps they are not actually chosen, perhaps it was all just spiritual ego wanting to feel important. I want you to do something simple, yet profoundly powerful. Right now, write in the comments, I release the need to prove myself, and I trust my divine timing. This is not just a pretty phrase. It is a declaration to the universe, a shift in the energetic frequency you are broadcasting. Something extraordinary happens when we voice these truths. First, you acknowledge this pattern within your own journey. Second, you help countless others reading the comments right now, who thought they were alone in feeling this sacred pressure, this beautiful burden of knowing they are meant for more. Your comment might be the confirmation someone needed today, the sign they were searching for, that they are on the right path, that the struggle to align with their calling is not evidence of failure, but evidence of authenticity. So please share now. This small act of courage might be the catalyst for profound transformation, not only for yourself but for everyone who will be touched by your words. The universe is listening, and your higher self is waiting for you to claim your truth. Now we must address what manlypalmerhall called the great test that every chosen soul must eventually face. This is the test that determines whether you will fulfill your mission or become yet another person with great potential who never quite actualized it. The test is this: will you continue to wait for external validation, external permission, external circumstances to be perfect before you step into who you truly are? Or will you recognize that the very act of waiting is the final barrier between you and your destiny? This is where most seekers remain trapped in perpetual preparation, forever learning, forever growing, forever getting ready, but never actually doing, consuming spiritual content, attending workshops, reading books, collecting techniques and practices, like a person who spends years learning to swim by reading about it, watching videos about it, talking about it, but never actually getting in the water. There is a moment in every genuine spiritual journey where knowledge must transform into embodiment, where understanding must transform into action, where belief must transform into knowing. And that moment is always now, not when you feel more ready, not when you have more clarity, not when circumstances align more favorably. Now, in this imperfect moment with all your doubts and fears and uncertainties. The esoteric traditions understood this, which is why initiation in the mystery schools always culminated in what they called the leap into the abyss, a moment where the candidate had to step forward into complete unknown, relying solely on faith in their own divine nature, without any external guarantee of safety or success. This was not cruelty. This was the final refinement, because here is what they knew. Intellectual understanding of spiritual truth is worthless. Emotional connection to spiritual truth is beautiful but insufficient. Only embodied, lived, demonstrated spiritual truth has the power to transform reality. The universe does not respond to what you know or what you feel or what you intend. It responds to what you are, to the frequency you actually embody, to the consciousness you demonstrate moment to moment in your daily life. You can know all the metaphysics in the world. You can feel deep spiritual states in meditation. You can have profound intentions for your life. But if your actual moment-to-moment choices, your actual behaviors, your actual energy remains unchanged, then nothing in your external reality will shift. This is the secret that many teachers either do not know or deliberately withhold because it is not marketable. You do not need more information. You do not need more healing. You do not need more clearing of blocks or wounds or karma. You need to make a choice. A sovereign choice that comes from the deepest part of your being. A choice to step into your power now, regardless of whether you feel ready, regardless of whether others validate you, regardless of whether the path ahead is clear. And here is the profound paradox. The moment you make that choice unconditionally, the moment you stop waiting for permission or perfect conditions and you simply begin living as the version of yourself you are being called to become, everything shifts. Not because the external world changed, but because you changed. and reality is consciousness reflecting itself back to you through the mirror of experience. When you change the consciousness you bring to each moment, reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new frequency. The ancient mystery schools, particularly those of Egypt and Greece, taught what they called the principle of correspondence, as above so below, as within so without. What exists in the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. What you carry in your internal world must eventually manifest in your external world. This is not belief. This is not hope. This is not positive thinking. This is fundamental spiritual physics. Consciousness is primary, matter is secondary. Consciousness does not emerge from matter. As materialist science claims, matter emerges from consciousness as a crystallization of vibrational frequency into dense form. You are not a physical body that somehow produces consciousness. You are consciousness that has temporarily taken on physical form for the purpose of experience, evolution, and ultimately transformation. This is what it means to be chosen before birth. Your consciousness existed before this body. Your awareness predates your physical incarnation, and it will continue after this body returns to dust. What you are is eternal. What you are is indestructible. What you are is a fractal hologram of the infinite intelligence that sources all of reality. The reason you feel called to something greater is because you are something greater. The divine nature is not something you need to attain or achieve or earn. It is what you are right now beneath the layers of conditioning and false identity. But here is where it gets challenging. Knowing this intellectually changes nothing. The ego will happily adopt spiritual concepts and wear them as a more sophisticated mask. I am consciousness, I am infinite, I am divine. The ego says this to feel special, to avoid the actual work of transformation. True awakening is not comfortable. It is not a peak experience you have in meditation that makes you feel blissful and expanded for a few hours. True awakening is the death of everything you thought you were. It is the dissolution of the false self, and the false self does not go gently. It will fight. It will create doubt. It will manifest fear. It will seduce you back into comfortable patterns with very convincing arguments. This is why the path of awakening has always been called the narrow way, the straight gate. Few find it, not because it is hidden, but because it requires something most are unwilling to give: complete surrender of control, complete dissolution of the ego structure that has run your life until now, complete trust in a process that cannot be understood by the rational mind. This is what Manly-P. meant when he spoke of the ordeal of the mysteries, the journey from intellectual knowledge to lived embodiment, the journey from believing you are consciousness to actually being consciousness in every moment, without the constant interference of ego. Identification. There is something crucial I need you to understand about the nature of your mission here. The specific form it takes will be unique to you. It is not about becoming a spiritual teacher or healer, unless that is your authentic path. It is not about gathering followers or building some external spiritual empire. It is not about performing miracles or demonstrating supernatural abilities to prove your enlightenment. The true mission of chosen souls in this era is far more subtle and far more powerful. It is to anchor the frequency of awakened consciousness into the collective field through the simple act of your presence, to live in the world but not be consumed by the world, to function in society while remaining rooted in a deeper dimension of being that most never access, to demonstrate that it is possible to be fully human and fully divine simultaneously. This is the great work that the alchemists wrote about in coded language. They were not really talking about turning lead into gold. They were talking about the transformation of the dense consciousness of ego identification into the golden consciousness of divine awareness. And that transformation happens not through spectacular events, but through 10,000 small choices. Choosing awareness over reaction, choosing presence over distraction, choosing authenticity over pretense, choosing love over fear again and again in the mundane moments of daily life. When you do this consistently, when you become a living demonstration of awakened consciousness in the middle of ordinary life, you change the morphic field of human consciousness itself. You make it easier for others to awaken because you are proving it is possible. You are creating what biologists call an attractor state in the collective consciousness. When enough individuals anchor a new frequency, it reaches a tipping point and suddenly what was rare and difficult becomes common and natural. This is why you are here now, during this precise moment in history when humanity stands at a crossroads between two possible futures. One future is continued descent into materialism, separation, fear, and control. The other is a quantum leap in consciousness, where humanity remembers its divine nature and begins to create societies based on unity, love, and cooperation. Which future manifests depends on whether enough souls wake up in time, and it depends specifically on whether you wake up, whether you stop waiting, whether you stop preparing, whether you step into your power. Now, the universe did not make a mistake when it chose you. You were chosen because your higher self knew you had the capacity to succeed at this mission, even if your human personality doubts it constantly. You were chosen because the specific configuration of your gifts, wounds, experiences, and consciousness is exactly what is needed for the role you came to play. Here is what the esoteric traditions teach about the mechanism of awakening. It is not a linear process. It is not a path where you steadily accumulate more knowledge and slowly become more enlightened over years or lifetimes. That is the exoteric understanding, the surface teaching given to those not ready for the deeper truth. The real process of awakening is sudden, catastrophic, and complete. It is what Zen Buddhism calls satori, what Christian mystics call being born again, what Sufis call fana, what the mystery schools call illumination. It is a moment of such profound shift that the person who emerges is not an improved version of who they were before. They are fundamentally different, a new being, a new consciousness operating through the same body, but no longer identified with it. This awakening can be triggered by intense spiritual practice. It can be triggered by trauma or crisis. It can be triggered by grace seemingly coming out of nowhere. But here is what determines whether it happens: the degree to which you have released attachment to your current identity, the degree to which you have dissolved the ego structure through surrender, the degree to which you have become empty enough that the divine can fill you. This is why all the great spiritual traditions emphasize practices that diminish ego: meditation to quiet the mind, service to others to break identification with self-contemplation of death to recognize the temporary nature of physical form, study of truth to undermine false beliefs, devotion to something greater to cultivate humility. But these practices are not the awakening itself. They are preparations. They are the softening of the ground so that when the seed of awakening falls, it can take root. And here is the mystery that cannot be fully explained in words. When that moment comes, when the shift happens, you will recognize it with absolute certainty. There will be no doubt, no need for external confirmation. You will know that. You know that. You know. Because it is not a belief or a feeling or an experience, it is a fundamental shift in what you are. The drop discovering. It was always the ocean, the wave. Recognizing it was always water. There was never a separate individual self. That was the illusion, the dream, the temporary forgetting that allowed consciousness to experience itself as other, so it could know itself more fully. Now we arrive at the practical question that many seekers ask: if I am chosen, if I have this mission, how do I actually live it? What does it look like in daily life? And here is where the teaching becomes paradoxical again. Because the answer is both. Everything changes and nothing changes. Everything changes internally. You see through the illusion, you recognize your divine nature. You know yourself as consciousness itself, unlimited by the body and personality. Nothing that happens in the external world can truly threaten you, because you know what you are cannot be harmed. But externally, you might continue living much the same life. Same job, same relationships, same daily routines. The difference is the quality of presence you bring to those things. The difference is that you are no longer lost in the dream. You are aware of the dreamer. The Buddha, after his enlightenment, still walked and ate and slept. The Christ still lived in a human body, subject to physical needs. The great Sufi masters still had to earn a living support. Families navigate human society. Awakening does not extract you from the world. It transforms your relationship to the world. You are in it, but not of it. You function in the relative dimension while remaining rooted in the absolute dimension. You play the game of life with full commitment while knowing it is a game. This is what makes awakened beings so effective in the world. They are not paralyzed by fear of failure, because they know their true self cannot fail. They are not addicted to success because they know external accomplishment does not add to who they are. They are not attached to outcomes because they trust the intelligence that flows through all things. They act with total dedication to whatever they are doing in each moment. Yet, they remain completely free internally. This is the state the Bhagavad Gita calls karma yoga, action without attachment to the fruits of action, giving your full energy to what needs to be done, while remaining unshaken by results, success or failure. This is the consciousness you are being called to embody, not as some future achievement but as a present recognition. You already are that consciousness. You have always been that consciousness. You will always be that consciousness. The only question is whether you will remember it, claim it and live from it now, or continue to pretend you are the small, limited, fearful personality that was constructed by conditioning. And here is the final secret I will share with you from the mystery teachings. The very fact that you feel called to awaken, the very fact that you resonate with these words, the very fact that something in you knows this is true, is itself evidence that you are already awakening. The caterpillar does not feel called to become a butterfly until the transformation has already begun internally. The seed does not feel called to become a tree until the life force within is already surging toward expression. The call you feel is not coming from outside. It is coming from inside, from the deeper you, that has already begun the process of awakening and is now calling your surface consciousness to align with what is already happening in the depths. Let me bring this teaching full circle back to where we began. You were chosen before you were born, not by some external God, judging who is worthy and who is not, but by your own higher self. Recognizing that in this specific time on this planet at this moment in history, there was work to be done, evolution to be accelerated, light to be anchored into darkness, and you volunteered. You said yes, knowing how difficult it would be. You agreed to forget who you are so that the journey of remembering would create new patterns of consciousness in the collective field. You accepted the challenge of living in a world designed to keep you asleep, while maintaining the spark that would eventually ignite your awakening. Every moment of confusion was part of the plan. Every moment of suffering was refining you. Every moment of seeking was bringing you closer. The dark night of the soul was not evidence that you failed. It was evidence that you were ready for initiation. The sense of not belonging was not a problem. It was a compass pointing you home. The restlessness and discontent were not obstacles to overcome. They were the engine of your evolution driving you forward when you wanted to stop. And now you stand at a threshold. You cannot go back to unconscious living. You have seen too much known. Too much questioned too much. The veil is too thin now for you to forget again completely. But you have not yet fully stepped through into the new consciousness. You are between worlds. 1 foot in the old identity, 1 foot in the new. And that position is inherently unstable. The universe is asking you to choose. Will you continue to straddle this threshold caught between who you were and who you are becoming? Or will you take the leap? You do not need to know where you will land. You do not need to have it all figured out. You do not need to feel ready. You only need to choose. And in that choosing, in that act of sovereign will, everything you need will be provided. All the knowledge locked away in your higher consciousness will begin to download. All the gifts you came here to express will begin to emerge. All the synchronicities you need will begin to appear. All the people who are part of your mission will begin to show up. The universe has been waiting for you to claim your power. It cannot give you what you are not willing to receive. It cannot show you what you are not willing to see. It cannot guide you where you are not willing to go. Your willingness is the key that unlocks everything. If these words have stirred something deep within you, if you feel that recognition, that knowing that whispers, yes, this is true, if you sense that this message found you not by accident but by design, then do not let this moment pass. You have been called. Your higher self is speaking. You are being invited to step into the fullness of who you came here to be. Not someday when you feel more ready. Now in this imperfect moment with all your humanness intact. This channel exists for people like you. People who feel the call. People who sense they are meant for more. People who are tired of living small when something vast is stirring inside them. When you subscribe, you are not just following content. You are declaring to the universe that you are ready. You are saying yes to the activation that is already underway. You are aligning your conscious will with the intention your soul set before you were born. Activate the notifications as well. Not because we need the views, but because these messages have a way of arriving exactly when your soul needs them. Most people who find these videos report that it appeared in their feed at the perfect moment when they were asking this exact question, seeking this exact answer. Share this with someone you sense is going through their own awakening, someone who might be struggling to understand what is happening to them. Your sharing might be the catalyst they need, the confirmation that they are not crazy, that what they are experiencing is real, that they are not alone in this journey. And remember deeply, you are not behind. You have not missed your window. You have not failed by taking this long to wake up. You are exactly where you need to be. The timing is perfect. Everything that happened had to happen exactly as it did to bring you to this moment of recognition. This is your initiation. This is your calling. This is your time. Welcome home, chosen one. The universe has been waiting for you to remember. And now that you have, the real work begins. Not the work of seeking, but the work of being. Not the work of becoming, but the work of expressing what you already are. Go now and be the light you came here to bring. You are ready. You have always been ready. You were chosen before birth, and now it is time to awaken.